Hi, welcome back to the Love Mom podcast. It's great to see everyone this week. As you can see, I'm a single mom. Amy is away celebrating with her family, and we hope that she's having a great time. This week, we're going to talk about a couple of things. The first of which will be a very heavy topic. The second of which will be a heavy topic, but we are having a guest, and it is my favorite person in the world. So let's get started with the heavy stuff. I want to talk about what the entire internet has been talking about. Here on the Love Mom podcast, we definitely talk about mental health. We talk about addiction. We talk about all of that stuff. And this week, Hollywood or Miami was rocked with a little bit of mental health breakdown of sorts. Hollywood gossiper, blogger, Perez Hilton, who has been around forever, had a TikTok live. And during that live, he experienced a breakdown. I did not see the live, but I definitely heard about it after the fact. And I send my prayers and thoughts out to Perez and his family. I heard that the video was awful. And for anyone who watched it, I send my prayers out to you as well, because there's trauma behind that also. It got me thinking that there's a lot of people, individuals, just like you and I, who are dealing with a lot every day. A lot of things that we don't know about, things that people don't talk about because they are part of a stigma that we need to abolish, and that is mental health. And each year, 1.6 million people in the United States attempt to take their own life because whatever their reason is, they feel alone, they feel that there's no other option. I want you to know that there are other options. There are people that can help, that can listen, that can be that person to reach out to. I want to remind you that the confidential 24 hours a day, 7 days a week number to use on your cell phone, 988. Text or call that number at any time if you're feeling like you're alone and you want to harm yourself. Just a few statistics, because that's who I am. I like numbers. It's the 11th leading cause of death, with the exception of the 16 to 34-year-old range, which it then is the second leading cause of death. Men commit the act 4 times more often than women, and men tend to do it in more violent ways. What was interesting to me to have read about was the highest rate of all to end their own life are men over the age of 75. And as I was looking for the statistics, I found that number on the CDC website, and it did not give any justification or any speculation as to why that would be. And I can't put my head around it either. But that is the age group that tends to do that the most. Some things to look for in your friends, family, loved ones, if you're worried about them. If they've had any noticeable shifts in their behavior, any social withdrawal where they're normally out and about and doing things and they start isolating and withdrawing. Mood swings more so than usual, not just a day or a bad episode, but something that's more continual. If they start giving their possessions away or making comments like, you won't have to worry about me much longer. I don't want to burden you. I just want it all to stop. Those are phrases that would become concerning. Research suggests that asking someone directly if they are having thoughts of harming themselves or have a plan to harm yourself, that does not plant the idea in their head. It actually opens the door to start a conversation where intuitively we might think, oh, I don't want to ask them because what if they hadn't thought about that yet? But now I'm going to plant that seed. Just be direct. Ask them. Let them know that you're here. You see some change and you want to be helpful. You want to be the shoulder to lean on, the ear to listen. Avoid thinking that self-harm thoughts are just normal reactions to something stressful. They just split up from their spouse. They just lost their job. So that's a normal reaction to that stressor. It isn't. We need to pay close attention because it's real and it happens and there's no coming back from it. It is a final choice. In Old English common law, taking your own life was a felony. So if you didn't complete the act, you would then be arrested. It was decriminalized, and I'm glad that it was because it allows you to then seek help that you need versus worrying about if you're going to be punished. I am a big shout from the rooftops as loud as you can about we have got to normalize seeking help for our mental health. Mental health problems, mental illness is a chronic illness. It's totally treatable. And we should not be looked down upon for seeking help. The world is a very stressful place. Things are coming at us fast and furious, and we tend to want to just put on a mask and just push it down and try to take on the world. And you can do that until you can't. And then the rubber band breaks. And who's going to take care of you if you're busy taking care of everyone else? And when that rubber band breaks and you don't know what to do with yourself, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek someone to talk to. It's okay to ask for medication if that's what you need. We've got to kick the stigma to the curb and normalize professional help, psychiatric care, support groups. The Love Mom podcast, coming together as a community, leaning on each other, asking questions, venting, not judging each other. So just send a little prayer to Perez and his family. be a little more kind to someone on the street, the Starbucks worker, the person at the grocery store. You never know what's going on behind their eyes. I can say that I, myself personally, am the master of a mask. I can get up every day, put my makeup on, go out into the world, and play a part. No one would ever know what was going on behind the facade. I spent a number of years playing a part and playing it very well, not wanting to let anyone in to the hell that was going on. I have shared parts of my story with my son, and I wasn't ashamed of my son, but I didn't know how to share my story. So that leads me to the next segment of our show this week. We're going to take a quick break while I bring my guest in, and we will get started. Okay, everyone, this is the segment that I have been waiting for.
It's right here. See it on the camera?
All right, everyone, this is the segment that I have been waiting for. It may get emotional. It may get heavy. There may be some dark topics. I'll go ahead and put a trigger warning on here for content, maybe language. I will also share with you that this is the first time that I have heard this story, this account. Might be the first time that he has given this account.
No, I talk about it all the time. I'm an open book.
Bits and pieces.
Well, with you, maybe, because
Okay.
you can't take very much of it before you're like, oh, no, I don't want to know. But outside of conversations with you, like other people, I talk about it all the time.
Well, everyone, as I said, this is my favorite person on the planet, and I have mentioned him numerous times. He's also the producer of the Love Mom podcast.
And the editor. And the manager. Sometimes
He's
creative director.
He's everything. He's my heart, my soul, my number 2 born. This is Eli. I'm going to kind of take a back seat here, hand it over to Eli, and then I guess not interrupt you to ask questions, but if I have follow-up or clarification, we'll go from there. Cool? All right. Welcome to the Love Mom podcast. I'm glad that you're here. And
on set in the home up.
just to be clear, I have always known, and I shared this, that I wanted to do this podcast. I didn't have courage to do it alone. Meeting Amy was definitely a blessing. And I had hoped that my mom would get to see some of this because she is an instrumental character in all of this. And Grandma was definitely a character. She definitely loved you. And prior to starting all of this, I spoke with Eli and got the green light to move forward with this because as I was going through and kind of getting my mission statement together and the focus of what the podcast would be, it kind of hit me late one night that, wow, I am sharing my story, but it's putting Eli's business out there. And anyone that knows our family or might be watching this would put it together. So I didn't want to step on any toes or I don't know that it would hurt your feelings, but I definitely wanted your permission. But you gave me a very quick response, and it was a resounding yes. You supported this venture.
It's
And
always been a mission of mine myself to kind of how people think this world has gone to a completely toxic thing that I don't think the higher power, whatever it may be, ever intended it to be. It completely functions on money, and that's really terrible.
so I'll move to the next piece in just a minute, but I wish that we didn't have so many text messages between each other because it would take me forever to go back and find your answer. But do you remember what your answer was when I asked you what your thoughts would be and if you would be okay with me doing this podcast?
I'm a pretty honest, straightforward person with everything, so I could just assume that it would be the same thing I would tell you now if you asked me, which is that it would have to be authentic, completely open and honest, because otherwise, what's the point of doing it? Creating more fluff, more clickbait, more. That's all just for, again, money, so people can get traffic on their pages, creating garbage. And we love consuming garbage. I love trash TV. It's my favorite, but it's not good for us. The society and the expectations of society have created many, many problems. Earlier, you mentioned men's suicide being much higher than that of women. 4 times, I think you said.
Yes.
Because of societal expectation, in my opinion. You said you weren't sure why. I would think that it has to be because of the idea or the image, whatever, that a man is supposed to be.
So the part that really baffled me was the highest percentage overall in the United States is 75 and older men.
Probably because for the longest time they were expected to be protectors, providers, big, strong, emotionless, whatever. And around that time is when you start to become feeble and you have to come to terms with the things that I can't do anymore.
I wonder if it has anything to do with their spouse being gone or
I
they're
did
fighting
spend time in the
or
nursing
they
home.
cannot take care of their spouse anymore. So, I mean, it could be a number of things. So,
And in a lot of societies throughout history, the old people more or less offing themselves or unaliving themselves was common. Like it was almost honorable to not burden your family.
right. I'll dig into that and we'll do a follow up on the next show.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be a graphic on the. I'll talk to the editor. I'm sure we'll get a graphic.
So, just to bring back to the answer of that text message was exactly what you just said. As long as it's authentic, real, raw, and will focus on doing real good in society with
Because my story is not unique, like pretty much in any way. As it turns out, the more I talked about it, the more I opened up about it, the more you find that a lot of people have gone through something similar, or at the very least know somebody that has. Amy being a prime example. There's almost nothing but parallels
there's
between
so
the stories.
yes. So with the loved ones stories for I don't want to say for the most part, but are very similar. Toward the end, while you were still in Las Vegas, and I don't remember how I found out that you were unhoused.
That was Laughlin. Let's be factually accurate.
Okay.
Because I really was only in jail in Vegas.
Yeah,
never-
I do use Las Vegas very
I do too when I tell the story, because that's how most people are going to understand what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Even though Laughlin was used to shoot some show, Poker Face, the opening scene was
When you were in jail where they shot TV shows too.
Yeah. But the parking garage that we lived in was on a TV show. I remember it coming on, and me and the ex sitting there watching it. And like the moment it came on screen, I was like, I know that place. What is that place?
So
And
you're
it got closer,
destined
and I
to
was
be
like,
famous.
oh, I live there. That's why I was
Destined to be
parking garage.
famous.
And the security guards, they walked once an hour, and they never ran us off. They kind of looked out for us.
Loved ones or family members or whomever on the other side of the addict, their stories are very similar for the most part. After I found out about Nevada, Aunt Dawn and I texting each other every minute and a half. Have you heard from him? Did you hear from him? Anything new? I got to a point, thank God I had a job where I worked from home because I could not function. And I started going to a Naranon. And to hear the stories of different people is really what helped me get by, knowing that I wasn't alone in my story. The way I was feeling and just some of that, like you were saying, the stories really aren't that different. So with that, I'm going to shut up and
Sure. We'll see how.
and let you take it away. Elijah's story.
I'm not going to go into too much detail on anything because there's really not a whole lot of point. But kind of the bullet points of from start to finish, the journey of addiction. And of course, it gets a bad rap. I always call it the gateway drug. Marijuana. Legalized a lot of places now. Thankfully, where I live. Woohoo. Taxed all hell though. Like 25% taxes on. Wow. It's insane. The government got into the street drug selling game and really did it big. Of course, if you have a medical card, the taxes are a lot cheaper, but I don't. Yeah, there are doctors that you can just pay and get it, but I don't have any of the things on the list, and I can't be that just.
So what are things that allow you?
Glaucoma, anxiety. It's a ridiculous list. Again, the graphic will probably be on the screen, but
Okay.
um, it is quite the list.
So I have come a long way from where I was a number of years ago. One of those drugs are bad, say no to drugs. But I've grown through our experience. And you think about alcohol and totally speaking on marijuana right now and where I've seen marijuana and alcohol. I think that I would rather see someone that uses marijuana versus someone that drinks alcohol.
Well, as I was just telling you, I had a drunk customer come into my job, and because he was drunk and like drunk enough to just make bad decisions, acted a fool in a public place in a small town where he's not from, threatening a local cashier for no reason. Ridiculousness.
Yeah, I I'd
Yeah,
like
so
to
there's
share
some superiority things going on, but I'm not his therapist unless he wants to pay me.
as a
So
marijuana. How old were you?
13.
Okay.
Everything kind of began at 13. Coincided with a certain important person in my life moving to town who everybody told her to stay away from me because I was lame, a square, I believe is what she was told the first time, or at least how she told me the story. But she asked one of the classmates because we were in junior high. They walked in this new student here, everybody, this is so and so.
Mhm.
Make her feel welcome, and she goes up to the person that looked the most like her, which was the dyed hair and the black T-shirt and just the "I hate myself" written all over her face. She asked, "Okay, so like, what's going on here? Who should I talk to? Who should I not talk to?" She was told, "Oh, that's Eli. He's a square. You don't talk to him." And she did the exact opposite of what she was told. I would come to find out that was just kind of her thing, doing the opposite of what she was told. We became inseparable. We are still inseparable, really. She's gone, but I do wear her around my neck every day, all the time. We always talked about becoming a part of the 27 Club. She did it. Rock star. Uh, so a couple houses down from where I grew up would have been, I guess, one could call it my first trap house. Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. So the teenage girl that lived there I don't even remember why I was down there. Probably smoking pot. Nope.
This was still
No. Yeah.
13.
Yeah, 13.
Okay.
Because this story is kind of actually the first time I ever smoked pot. I might have drank at that time, only very lightly, because I mean, nobody at 13, no matter how big of a game they want to talk, can drink very well.
True.
But one night I was down there, the girl that lived there asked me if I'd ever smoked weed, if I wanted to go smoke some pot. Of course, I say yeah. I say yeah, like I smoke pot all the time. Of course I do. So we did. We went to, as it turns out, the new girl that had just moved to town. We went to her house. We went inside into her room. It was the coolest bedroom, probably when I think of Happy Place or what is it called? Like the Mental Palace or the Palace in Your Mind or whatever. Can't remember what that's referred to as, but just that inner place you go to find peace. Probably decorated exactly like that. Like it got stuck in the 70s, the brown, thick, shaggy
Oh my
carpet. There was a record player on the floor, the mattress and box spring on the floor. It looked very 70s. There were a lot of similarities between her and her mom and her sister that kind of make me believe that that's probably what Ashley's room looked like in the 70s. If she was a kid in the 70s, I assume she was. But that's probably exactly what it looked like. There's plenty of times that we lay on the shag carpet and listened to Zeppelin records. Physical graffiti was probably worn out. Just absolutely worn out.
You are your father's son.
Yeah. Hmm.
I've never listened to a Led Zeppelin record in my life.
She had made her own bong out of a bath toy, like a child's bath toy that was shaped like a princess castle. It was her little sister's. Her little sister even kind of like had found out about it or like saw it sitting on the table one time. We tried to keep the door closed all the time because if she got in the room, it's hard to get her out, and she just wanted to, be around and be a part of. But we were older. We're like, get out here, go on, get.
So, did her mother know this was going on?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, she would ignore it for the most part, but occasionally she would come and bang on the door, and you would hear, "Hey, I can smell that shit." Yeah, she knew. But where I grew up it's super common. That's
Sure.
it's what people do. Drink, smoke weed, smoke works, gamble. Every every gas station has slots. There are 5 or 6 businesses in the very small town that I live in that are only dedicated to gambling.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
I've said many times here for Beyonce's whole internet to know, I'm by no means saying that I'm a saint. Your dad and I drink plenty of beer on plenty of back roads
Mm.
in our area. So
You're saying drinking and driving?
I was not.
Mm-hmm.
I was in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, take the wheel. I'm not a saint. But that was before I was married. Children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the rules are different there. If you haven't lived in small town America, if you haven't lived in, grown up in, whatever it may be, small town America, the rules are just a little bit different. Even through the pandemic, like we all kind of acted like it wasn't happening, or we're allowed to really choose whether we wanted to act like it was happening or not. Kind of secluded from the rest of the world. The rest of the world, the news, everything focuses on cities and what's going on there, and that is nothing like small town America.
True.
The politics are different, the rules are different, the ones that we choose to follow, the ones we don't. That's very different. It is very common for young people to drink, smoke weed, be out all the time, start going out late for late nights, all nighters at a very young age. For a while, it was the classic be home before the streetlights come on. But when you're a teenager, if a kid's going to sneak out, they're going to go out, they're going to go out, whether they have to sneak out, whether they have permission to be out. People are going to do what they want to do.
Yes.
If people could just learn to choose better things. But we never want what's good for us. If whoever's listening out there could find out why that is or what we could do to change that, we might fix the world.
You and I talked about that recently about
The ability to take advice from other people.
yeah,
or,
like the
or learn from others' lived experiences.
why is it that when a parent is trying to tell you
And not even just
what not to do, or this might not be a good idea, or maybe go left instead of right. And I can't remember specifically what we were talking about, but as we were having that conversation, it dawned on me that it's more of a control. I'm wondering if it is, I'm 32 years old, and why is someone, my mom, my dad, still trying to tell me what to do? I'm going to do what I'm going to do, type of thing, instead of looking at it from the perspective of maybe they have a good reason for telling me this. Maybe they've been there. It would save me some heartache. save me some money, save me some time. If there was a better way to communicate it versus sounding like you're still trying to boss them around or something. It's hard to.
I can see that from the perspective that you have as my parent. So that's how you feel about it. But from my perspective, it wasn't so much, or didn't feel so much like rebelling against authority or fighting for the desire of independence or whatever, because I or anybody else in that situation, I didn't listen to anybody that tried to tell me that. It wasn't just my parents or parent. I would never have an opinion one way or the other that he would share with me anyway, because I think he knows that people are going to do what they want to do. But if I were to listen to anybody, his friends, my family, him, I would actually listen to him instead of the image or the scenarios that my brain made up. Because as you've mentioned before, the brain is a very powerful thing. Not only does it have the power to help you forget things that are traumatic, but it will change sort of reality while you're in a situation to make it more palatable for you. Commonly in our relationships, I'm sure everybody has heard the term love is blind, because it absolutely is. Helen Keller blind.
Not Anne Frank blind.
Right. But it's almost as if we see what somebody could be.
Sure. We can fix them. We can love them to reach their potential.
Yeah. So that image, that facade, that a lot of times it's not even them that create it. We are.
Sure.
And that's a huge part moving on from situations like that. I've come to find out. If anybody needs help, shoot me a comment. I'm pretty much an expert at it at this point. But you really do have to take responsibility for your own part of it. A lot of it was overboard on other people's parts, but it's no secret that I had an out the whole time. I could have left at any point in time. I was instructed to get to a train station, get to an airport, get somewhere, get anywhere. We'll send you a ticket. But I had an out. I just stayed. So you spoke briefly about before I took off and flew out west and moved out there. I remember thinking at that point that there's no point not to go, right? Life is experiences. I experience everything I can experience with my time on this rock. But, at that point in time, what that really meant.
So let's talk. Let's go from 13 to getting on that airplane.
Well, let me clarify that I don't think 13 was the start of the addiction.
Okay.
I would say 13, yeah, for me anyway, it did have a lot of social aspect to it. That's why I started drinking and smoking weed, because everybody else was. And come to find out, they already thought of me as a square. So 13, I would say, was social and the beginning of self-medicating, because that's really what people are doing with any drug that they do, whether it's street drug or I went and got a script from my doctor. It's self-medicating to fix or to help or to
Deaden.
Yeah.
Okay.
We as people love comfort to a point that it has even made us lazy. So we do crave
Whether we're
comfort.
eating, feelings away, or taking a pill, or
even small things.
working. I was a workaholic. The only thing I knew was work. And
I got called a workaholic just last night.
I sacrificed my family because the only time I felt worthy was when I was inside those hospital doors, because I was so busy inside those doors and good at what I do.
I was going to say and successful, because that's a lot of what it is for me. I end up doing oftentimes way more than I should be, because I'm good at what I do too, and I like
The people in there
feed off those
don't
moments.
know me. They don't know my trauma.
Well, they know the
don't
mass, what we create, and we are very comfortable sharing that part. That's the part that we want the most people possible to see.
Yeah. So I sacrificed everything to not feel and work through the trauma. And you talk about a lot people not doing the shadow work to fix the root problem. And
well, again, societal expectation. You're expected to head down, keep moving. You talked about bereavement and how they try and put a timeline on that, because you're expected to keep your head down, keep moving.
be cured in those 3 days that they give you off work. And
whatever the reason,
yeah,
you're a cog in the machine of this great America, and you need to keep moving. Otherwise,
when I still struggle to get out of bed on the days that I reach for the phone to call grandma and tell her about just the random things. There are certain recipes that she always wanted when I make spaghetti when the littles are here. She loved my spaghetti, and I would always take a picture of it and send it to her, and she would say, bring me the leftovers. Still, when the littles are here and I make spaghetti, I take a picture and I get ready to send it to her.
Maybe you should send it.
I have sent a couple of messages. A couple of different things have happened. I won a very special reward at work, and something else, I can't remember what it was, and I sent it. Aunt Dawn still has her phone. I sent messages because I just was overwhelmed with the feeling that I needed to send it. Okay, so self-medicating, 13 wasn't the start of your
addiction, because to me, addiction comes with that physical dependency on alcohol, whatever.
Okay.
Physical dependency.
What was your first addiction?
I would say synthetic marijuana. The K2 is the first that actually. So there's withdrawals, there's physical backlash from getting off of it.
Okay.
So I would say that's physical dependency. And
I think K2 is the devil.
And was only created and allowed to be, it came to be because the criminalization of marijuana, being on probation for, shout out to the probation officer. We were together for a very, very long time.
Had a successful marriage.
And we're hoping to get her on the podcast in one way or another. But you have to drug test once a week, once a month, whatever it may be. Usually it starts out more often, and if they
trust you,
or so they probably never really trust you, because how much can you trust an addict? But you're tested regularly, and marijuana, in my opinion, being the least harmful out of all of them, stays in your system the longest. So if you want to continue medicating for the things that society says are not medicatable or even okay to talk about, but everybody has to deal with. So if you still want your medication for that, you have to find it somewhere else. But yeah, K2 is awful. And it did start off sort of something that could have been described as synthetic marijuana, but the same system that created it was also making it illegal, testing for it, which, whatever, but addicts are an addict. The drug would just be changed one little chemical molecule at a time so that the test that they have now wouldn't be able to
pick up.
so it just kept being changed. It was very designer, plug and play drugs, and that caused it to become stronger and stronger. It got to a point where people learned what chemical was being used. They were ordering it online and making it themselves, just buying whatever and spraying it like it was I don't know if it came as liquid or came as a powder and you mixed it into liquid. We just sprayed it on essentially potpourri or whatever herb or ground up whatever. And then when that wasn't enough, I remember a point where you could get double sprayed, triple sprayed, and it just snowballed from there because tolerances and chasing a high.
That you never get. That's what I read, that you never get the same high as you got the first time.
I guess, in a way, because from then on you kind of know what to expect, and that's always going to make it feel different. But you can get just as high.
Sure.
It's never going to feel like that again.
I think
Especially the longer
they
you do
say.
it. Because the longer you do it, it's a problem. What you have to do to get it becomes a problem.
I think that the point of that comes, for lack of a better way to describe it, it's not fun anymore. It's to survive.
Survive
Does that
makes
make
it
sense?
survive makes it seem like that feels like an extreme.
But the withdrawal, if you don't do it, like,
It does suck, but keep in mind that it is self-medicating. It is once you realize that it is true what they tell you in the little dare classes, even though those could have been designed a lot better. They could have been something useful, but just weren't. But when you discover that it does alter your mind in the way that you think, therefore changing the way that you feel, that's the part that I think most people latch onto. Because the parts that they're fixing are the parts that society says you're not supposed to talk about. You're not supposed to feel.
the dopamine.
Serotonin. So head down, keep moving. If you can't do that, if you can't do one or the other, you can't keep your head down or you can't keep moving, find a way to. And there's not a whole lot of support out there. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of go to once a week groups or whatever, but I'm not trying to bash any of the A's in AA, whatever. But I don't want to say it seems like it's not working, but it's still a rampant problem.
Absolutely.
And those meetings are everywhere.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to find a way to fix the problem, not just manage the consequences.
Mm-hmm. So, interestingly enough, I think God wanted this conversation to happen because when I brought you home, and I think I shared that story when I talked about my situation and my part this when I flew to Las Vegas and picked you up from the Clark County Detention Center.
CCDC.
And we raided Walgreens for all the candy, and we had the rubber band car. And you came back to our city and stayed with me for a period of time, went to church with me. The ladies loved you. What did you take? Cinnamon rolls. I was approached by the lady that sat, I thought I sat in the front row. I sat in the second row because you know who I'm talking about. I'm certainly not going to call any names, but that hugged us every Sunday. Anyway, we had talked while you were here with me then and talked about, kind of ties into the podcast, and both of us having this desire to help people and this passion to really do some good in this world. And I think that we will. I honestly think that we are here as two beings that are meant to do something. But I found this, and I'm going to let you look at it and see if you remember what it is. But you have a specific set of thoughts of how things come together, and it really goes along with what you just said about that and fixing not just the consequences but the problem. And there are homeless shelters and there are outreach and different things, and I think this came about because of the church outreach or something. We were going to join the team or something, but
I think they had probably calling out a church community, but I think they had said something about their outreach program and being so recently affected by homelessness. I had kind of an insight that they just didn't. And they've said something, and I was just like, that's wasting money on stuff that's not even going to help people. So what they need to do is like clean socks and underwear or something, I think I said, because that was one of the things that I could call out as being one of the biggest pains about not having a home was the socks and underwear.
And with that being said, you have, with you saying that, with all of the things that we have come across with Grandma's house, Grandma was a sock fanatic. She did not, there's not a sock that my mother didn't love. So we have, as we're getting through the house, you've seen Grandma's house. We're putting together, I don't want to call them gift bags. I don't know what we'll call them, but bags for people in need that will include socks, that will include personal items. Grandma had so many feminine care products. We'll be including those in it. And all of that is based off of this list in Grandma's heart to take care of people. So we're going to start bagging those up, whether it'll be in Ziploc bags or whatever, but we're going to start creating those personal care items, and maybe we'll stick a Love Mom podcast sticker on them because it's called Love Mom Podcast because of Grandma. But just in you writing this down and you verbalizing some of the things, people who don't have a home don't need canned goods. And I was like, wow, people are thinking that, I mean, go to Schnucks and buy some canned goods, and I'm doing my civic duty.
Canned food drive. That's a very classic idea of outreach, especially for churches or
people think they're doing their civic duty. Let me give 2 cans of soup and a can of peas.
Or you give can openers?
Correct. And how are they going to warm it up? Because
I guess the same way they've been heating their pipes, they get a couple lighters and hold them up under the can.
Even though someone is struggling with addiction, that's somebody's loved one. That was my son. That's somebody's son. It's somebody's daughter. It's somebody's husband, somebody's mother. They still deserve respect. They still deserve to keep some dignity.
Everyone on the planet does.
1000%.
Whether they live under a bridge, they live in a penthouse somewhere. Even those wonderful 1% people
Mhm.
that are just completely stricken with greed and
Yeah.
are toxified by money. They deserve respect. Everyone.
They do tend to be a little more
A
narcissistic.
lot of places, including where I was in the desert. Again, why the desert? But it was illegal. It's not illegal to be homeless. It is, however, illegal to sleep outside, to camp in public. So I guess there are ways to make homelessness laws without making homelessness laws.
It can happen to anyone. Not all homeless people are addicts.
Most of the people that I would come across were unhoused by unfair circumstances, typically greed on some landlord's part.
Again, we never know unless you invest your time to find out what people's circumstances are.
When I did, years of my life of it. Because remember, I set off to have experiences, right? And when you are abandoned by the one person that you have in the desert to just wander, what I did was just switched on the intellectual part, and I used like journaling or note taking as a way to, I guess, talk to myself. But it was very useful. It even allowed me to kind of, at times, because love is still blind, but look at my situation from a third person point of view and get some clarity on things and what I saw in other people. That's when I started to really piece together that people are all really the same. And if you can learn somebody's intentions, the rest of it is just filler. So I learned a lot about people. And most of it came from lack of support uh, in the things that society says we can't talk about. And if you don't feel like you are supported or respected in some fashion, whatever the reason may be, you gotta deal with it somehow.
So back to the self-medicating.
Right. Which everyone does with something. Something. She's the coffee addict or the smoker or the crossworder or something to soothe that, like the anxiety or the tension, or so everybody self-medicates. Some people self-medicate with stuff that society deems bad. So then they go to jail, the system, blah blah blah. But societal expectation and the fear of isolation.
Okay.
That's originally what my goal was. This isn't the first idea as far as like the helping people. And I really like to say helping people help themselves because
Sure.
there's nothing that I can do that you can do to help anybody. It all comes from within. But it's true. If you want something, it's not that difficult outside of the physical dependency, which is rough.
So when did you graduate from being 13 and smoking marijuana to?
I don't know exact. I don't want to speak inaccurately, but it is like a community, and one just does bleed into another, especially once you start to build a tolerance for the one you're currently using,
Chasing that high.
if that's what you want to call it, or just experimenting with, because they all are a little different in the way that they make you feel, even outside of the physical part. It makes you physically feel one way, and then the way that it changes your mindset would be different, varying from drug to drug. And once you start to build a tolerance for one, especially in small town America, I was also a teenager, so it's not like I had a whole lot of disposable income for drugs. So you just kind of do what you can get your hands on. You try this, try that, and you learn what you like, what you don't. But it does happen pretty rapidly, I would say. Marijuana is probably the easiest one to get your hands on just because, well, it's kind of the least harmful. It's not criticized as hard. So,
Socially accepted, so to speak.
so the gateway drug that it has been demonized as.
So, any other part of the story between starting and getting on the plane to the West Coast?
Not really. It was all fairly normal, straightforward, I would say. And I guess that's just from my small town America point of view as well. There's probably plenty of people that will watch this that will think 13, that's absolutely insane. But that's really, really normal.
Do you think using drugs had any part of your school experiences?
No, because I didn't think much of my school experiences anyway. They didn't carry much weight. I didn't have respect for most of it. Most of any of them, really. I remember in junior high getting to the point where I was realizing that I was more intelligent than most of my instructors. I don't say that to be any type of way. And what they were teaching, they might have had the facts memorized better than me because they go over it every year, but at their core, at their base level of intelligence, I was just rapidly becoming more capable. And when that happened, I felt unchallenged. I got bored having to listen to people that I didn't think knew what they were talking about. Plus, at 13, Dad opened the grocery store. I went to work after school. Not gonna do your homework. Didn't I do well on the test? I've shown you that I know the material. I learned it last year when you guys went over it, and the year before that, but we just have to recap everything for the first half of every year before we move on to anything new. Um, and even before that, there was the time of the agenda book where you'd have to write down your assignments, and then you didn't even really get credit for your assignments if your parent did not sign the agenda book. Well, my dad is very much of the same mindset as myself on a lot of things.
He's not going to sign the book.
Because he's not going to do homework. I'm not in school. I'm not going to do homework, which I get because he saw it as pointless. Just like I eventually saw school as pointless. So why am I going to do this? To jump through your hoop? It's ridiculous. So I already wasn't going to get the credit for my work. So why do it? So I learned to be good at confrontation, probably too. Because having to go to school every day and defend why the book isn't signed, because they automatically assume, well, you just didn't show it. Okay, call him. Call him and ask him if I showed him this agenda book. Bet you only do it once.
Wish that this podcast would take off so I could be a full-time podcaster and homeschool them littles.
Or at the very least, be able to choose who was educating the children instead of, because public school system is polluted by money as well.
We go to dinner. I drive you to the airport.
Well,
Heart breaks.
I had some friends that took off a couple of years before they were making a documentary. They took off, and I think it was a 94 T-Bird. Why they thought this was a good idea, this old, busted down, awful car. There's no way it was ever going to make it across the country.
Okay.
But they set off. They were making this video blog or documentary, whatever it
Okay.
was. And yeah, they made it maybe halfway before the car broke down, and then it turned into we're on the bus and sleeping at the bus stops and whatever. A part of their following.
That makes for good YouTube.
I mean, they did some band and even ended up personally offending them and getting,
Oh my goodness.
it was something. It was good. But they landed in California. I'm pretty sure it was like a viewer from the following knew the situation, was like, hey, I got this spot. So they made friends, they settled down, got to a point where
I
they had their own place, they
totally
were doing
didn't
well.
know this because I thought they were the reason you went to Arizona.
Well, and because that takes responsibility away from myself for my situation. And as parents, it's a default to feel like what happened to my child was somebody else's fault.
No, I just thought that that's who you were
Well,
going out there with. But
well, it was
okay.
because I was living in where I was living at home, the old stomping grounds, and K2 was rampant. People were dying from it. It was bad. It's one of those things that now, if you walk around my hometown and mention K2, there'll always be somebody who's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. It was like a plague almost. It had gotten pretty bad for myself, and my friends that had moved out west had heard about it. We had talked about it, something. I don't remember. The old memory's not as good as it used to be. But they offered an opportunity. You know, you can move out here. So everything out west is focused around physical health and eating better. And for example, there are so many trails that go around the little city, and they'll tell you exactly how far, the distance, the incline, I think it's quarter mile through the park that you would stop, and there would be like a mechanism or workout equipment that is very physically focused.
Okay.
So, you know, you should move out here, get away from all that, change your people's places, things, right? So I did, and it was great. Ooh, Lake Havasu was something beautiful. It's where the original London Bridge is.
Oh,
Bought in some deal, or I can't remember the story exactly, but the original London Bridge is right in America, in Lake Havasu City. The year that I moved out there, I want to say it was the same year or the year after Miley Cyrus threw her big spring break party
okay.
in Lake Havasu City, because I remember thinking, like, I just missed that. But when I moved out there, I was 20 anyway, but I'm from small town America. It doesn't matter.
Gosh, it's been that long.
It's been a while. Yes, it has. So I moved out there. I was on K2 so long, I didn't give myself an option as far as to wean myself off or to relapse, or I was using up until I got on the plane. I threw away the bowl that I had, the rest of the K2 that I had in the airport trash can right before I got on the plane. Like in the airport bathroom smoking. I used up until I got onto the plane. When I landed, and you land in Vegas, which is 3 hours north.
Okay.
So I had to take a bus to Laughlin and then a bus to Havasu. The bus to Havasu was not like the bus to Laughlin. But I get off the bus and we're walking all of my stuff back to the apartment because it was fairly close. And then that was it. Part of the effect of being high on K2 for so long was that you really didn't get high off marijuana anymore, even though when I moved out here, concentrated THC was like just becoming popular. It was really popular out west. People back home where I live now hadn't heard of it yet.
Okay.
It wasn't popular, just hadn't made it that far to little towns. And even that, and really get stoned off of it. Then the come down and getting clean off of it, that was awful. I don't really remember the through the night stuff, but I was told stories of screaming throughout the night and slamming on the wall, like just laying in bed, like slamming on the wall and stuff.
And you're not a little guy.
No, they said it was very loud, very disruptive.
Yeah.
They probably had an idea of what's coming, though. They're not. They weren't stupid. They aren't stupid. Took a while. Probably the hardest thing out of all of them that I had to quit because it just lasted for so long.
I guess that makes sense because marijuana stays in your system so long. So it would make sense that does. So it would be harder coming off of it. Definitely why I hear a lot of people at my job talking about they don't want to go to rehab. They don't want to stop because of the withdrawal.
Mhm.
So
The work that we do to be okay, which is a lot. It's not easy. Hard enough to realize your problems for what they are, and then to get to a point where you're going to work on them. How do you suggest doing that? It's difficult.
yeah. So now you're off K2.
Right.
Okay.
Jogging in the park, working 2 jobs in the spring break capital of the US at 20, about to be 21 years old.
Mhm.
Amazing time, amazing opportunity. I'll be forever grateful for it. Shout out MTD. And I don't remember how long I was there before meeting somebody. I hadn't lived there for very long. Met on what I now refer to as the horror app, because that's all anybody on there is interested in. But and all you guys out there, I'm sure you know exactly which one I'm talking about. You know,
I'm sure I know.
and everybody does. I called out the gays, but I'm sure everybody knows. Everybody knows the sound when they hear it too. Anyway, so we met July 29th of 2015. July 29th.
I know. I'll put it on my calendar.
On July 30th, this guy told me that he loved me. 24 hours.
Got imprinted.
Because my brain created that image that we spoke of earlier. I created a character. I fell in love with that character. Even now, I think fondly of that time because he was and is very good at playing that character when I'm around. But 24 hours, he drove from an hour and a half away just to come and hang out for a night. Maybe we went to a bar. He had just bought a new car. So there is a little bit of a funny story there. So he messages me and says, I think I'm here. I look outside and I see the car that he had said he was driving. I was like, yep, you're right outside. Give me just 1 minute. So where I was staying, we distributed goods, so to say, which only to point out that, like, when you do that, there are constantly people in your house, groups of people at your house, kind of what a trap house is, but this wasn't a trap house. But there were always people there. This instance was no different. There was 4 or 5 other guys there other than myself. We were all doing dabs, getting high as we always did. And I had to be like, all right, guys, you gotta go. Time to go. I don't care where you go, but you gotta go. Bye. So the person who's coming to meet me is sitting outside in his car and just sees the door open and
all these people walk
and
out.
all these guys leave, like just one after another. And he later admitted to me, he was like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. He was like, I didn't know what you were into. He was like, I didn't know if I could keep up with what was going on. And
Oh, he could have.
little did I know, it was a character. He was in character. We went to the bar. And it was to him a brand new car. He got so drunk he couldn't drive it, so I had to drive back to the apartment, which wasn't far. And I'm from small town America. I know, do not drink and drive ever on any amount.
Uber.
Buzzed driving is drunk driving. But that being said, even at that point, I was a professional. I grew up in the country. I was spinning cars in the mud way before I had a driver's license. It's a part of being out there. Four-wheelers,
race car.
it's a part of it. So I was like, yeah, you are definitely not driving us anywhere. Get in a passenger seat. I drove him back to my apartment, where he went inside and went to the bathroom. He was in there for a very long time. The way that the apartment was set up, there was no window in the bathroom. Eventually, I went and knocked on the door. I was like, hey, is everything okay? Are we all good in there? No response. If you want to sneak out, you're going to have to come through here. It's the only way out. And there was still no response. I'm like, what in the world? So I unlocked the door, and it only opened about this far. He said, don't come on. So like I pushed the door open. He had fallen asleep. He was sitting on the toilet. At one point, I'm guessing like this, fell asleep and fell face forward with his bare ass sticking up.
Oh,
And that was how I met the love of my life. It was something. Heck of an origin story, though.
wow.
But when he got up the next day, he had to drive home, an hour and a half home. He had just gotten a promotion at work. It came with vacation time. He immediately called and took a week's vacation and came and stayed with me and my roommates for a week. During that time, the honeymoon phase, him and I did a lot of things. One of those things got us noticed by the landlord. Turns out, people I was staying with weren't allowed to sublet. And Brian and I's actions made it hard to ignore the fact that they were. That's all I'm going to say about that. But that left us, or me, with a decision. Do I move to California with my friends that I've known forever? Or do I move an hour and a half north with this person that I met and was in love with? Should we pause and take a poll and see what everybody thinks that I chose? Of course I chose to go with the person that said they love me. At that time, I was meeting all these other people. So, of course, I went with him. We lived in an apartment with one of his friends. Kind of the opposite of the situation that we were just in. She wasn't really supposed to be subletting either, so that was short-lived. But it was a nice apartment.
Is that the one I went to?
It was. But while we were living there, it was when... So at the time, I had no idea that I was getting so much insight into the person that I was with, because I was ignoring things, because I was in love and my brain had created this image. Now, where I'm at now, I can see that there was a lot that if I got with somebody now and happened, absolutely not. Are you kidding me?
You're also 10 years older,
Yeah.
12 years older, whatever.
Oh, I mean,
A lot of wisdom comes those crucial 10, 11 years. Sure.
any experience will teach you something if you have the correct mindset. I think that's really the difference between what makes somebody average and what creates those what end up getting called geniuses. It was just the openness to ideas, different ideas than the ones that you have yourself, the openness to accept things as they are and observe and learn and experience. I think that's really the difference. I don't think it's some crazy gene thing, just a mindset change. While living there, I did eventually start to learn more now than then, but the signs started to point towards emotional instability, trauma of his own that he was dealing with that I was way unaware of because he's not a very open person. He doesn't share much. And what he does usually isn't honest. But I learned that less than a year previous to that, he had just gotten out of a relationship that was significant and long enough to be traumatic.
Okay.
I could not go back in time. I get asked that question a lot. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? Well, nothing, because I know better than that. Because there's nothing that can be said. You can tell yourself something even, and it's not going to land because you have to go through
You
it.
can tell yourself it's going to be a hell of a ride.
But one of the things that I learned, relationship, blah, blah, blah. So he was pretty tore up about it and how he tends to deal with any emotional turmoil or whatever it may be is, for lack of a better phrase, drugs and whores. They're his favorite. I remember being at work one day and getting a message about my openness to inviting others into activity with us. My response was, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I said, but we can talk about it whenever you pick me up from work. He picked me up from work
With someone.
with 2 dope whores. Yeah, I'm talking about you guys. So the option was taken from me. It was the first time that something like that was just, it was just something that was happening to me, not something that I was a part of, which would become a reoccurring theme for some years to come. But that's not a good feeling, and it's not something that I should have been there for. Anyway, it was so obvious that what he was doing was wrong and traumatic to me that one of them actually ended up coming out and spending time with me in almost like that sympathetic friend or sibling role, like trying to comfort me because, wow, this is fucked up. That person, even though was emotionally intelligent enough to know that and to want to comfort me, was the same person that after moving out of that apartment and into our next one was the person that he moved in without saying anything to me. One day they just was there with bags, moved into our apartment, and he was no longer with me, he was with him.
So this would be technically when you became unhoused.
No.
No.
No, because it wasn't long lived, and my name was still on a lease.
Okay.
I was not homeless.
Okay.
I did eventually move back in with them. That's a good portion of what the book is, me in a room of an apartment that was supposed to be mine and my boyfriend's, that ended up being my boyfriend's and this other guy's, this other whores, which is in my room and isolating, of course, because what I'm supposed to hang out with you guys or no good. It doesn't usually take long for addiction to run its normal course, which is just to ravish a person of everything, mainly and most quickly financially, especially when, like in my situation, half of what I consider to be my team, my relationship, me and my spouse, so half of the team, being him, had a weakness for memoirs, and turns out they weren't honest people. They were scammers. They used people up for everything that they were worth, from one to the next.
Which,
The whores.
okay.
That's their whole thing. They've been addicted to drugs for a very long time. They'll do what they have to get money or drugs or whatever. I had pretty much from the first moment I laid eyes on any of these people made it clear that I wasn't playing ball. He was.
Okay.
Super willing to play ball.
Okay.
He was and is a very trusting person, even when there's no reason to. During the decade-long relationship, I was constantly having to, I'm sure from his perspective, seem yank the leash. No, get back. We're not going to trust those people. Stop it.
Yeah.
So it didn't take long for them to use up absolutely every resource he had, for him to lose his job, for us to get an eviction notice. We lived in the apartment for a very long time after the power was shut off and eviction notices have been posted. It's hot in the desert.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
ridiculous.
Shoes melt to the sidewalk.
We lived in his car in a parking garage because you can't stay at the trap house and try and turn your life around. We did end up with access to the RV park shower room because the doors, the hydraulic thing on the doors, didn't pull the door closed all the way all the time. There was a water fountain out there. If you're homeless, you use water fountains, especially if you're in the desert. Do you want to die? It's awful out there. You need water. So, noticing that the door was open, went in. They had return boxes for the key cards, and even though all the keys and the box were labeled saying that they would be deactivated upon checkout, they absolutely were not.
Okay.
Golden tip out there: if you happen to be homeless with an internet access and you're watching this, check them key card drops. Get you a shower, boo. So we had access to a shower. We had the security guards that would walk around once an hour and do checks, and they never ran us off. So at least in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so these people are watching out for us. Out west, there is like the hot food program with the EBT card. You can go to, we went to Jack in the Box and was able to use the EBT card to pay for food.
Okay.
It became a part of our routine. Because again, amazing caregiver, I know the routine is important. We would go through the motions every day. To getting something to eat, putting on the clothes in case of interview, like the nice clothes. We would go to the library for internet access to put in job applications and all things that actually ended up on that list as far as if we were to make an outreach program, a facility or whatever that truly wanted to help people, not just do what they thought was helping, what would it entail? All of those things. But we had a schedule that we went through, and it made the recovery a little bit easier just because, like, having something to latch onto, like a routine, and that's been studied. So we would do that. He did get a job dealing cards at one of the casinos. When I met him, he was a pit boss. So he's kind of, it was what he did. He did get a job actually at the hotel casino that the family used to get us hotel rooms at. An old warrant caused him to get arrested from work one day, which of course cost him his job. He, and that one legitimately was a traffic ticket. So all of this work that we had done, all this suffering that we went through, all of the things that we at one point or another had to do for hotel rooms, for food, for anything that we needed, which is just, it's terrible, really. And then to go through all of that, be finally building towards something, and just to have it all come crumbling down because of a speeding ticket. And yes, I know taking your own responsibility for a part of it. We should have been on top of it and in court, whatever. But coming into somebody's job, because if it wasn't for that fact, you guys could have picked him up elsewhere. If it wasn't for getting arrested at work, wouldn't have actually missed anything more than maybe a day, because you typically see a judge the next morning. He would have been right back to work. But you arrested him from his job.
Yeah. That's
putting us back to square one. And me out there by myself, no job, just alone.
Yeah.
I made some mistakes, which landed me my own little spot in CCDC. I was in CCDC for a little less than a month. In that time, you obviously detox in a month. It's completely clean, mindset feeling better, enough time away from my, at the time, boyfriend, like enough distance there, had done me some good mentally. I'd gotten to a point where I agreed to come home.
You called me and said, in jail, be here about 30 days. If you come to Las Vegas and get me, I'll come home.
And
I have no fear.
it was like $80 in chips, chocolate, and I don't remember what else, but it was a lot. Because in my possessions was my ex's EBT card.
We definitely had candy.
That's all I could think about. That was what I missed from the outside. Everybody always asks about the food, and if you could, what do you miss? Or I guess on the inside, like when you're in jail, that's one of the conversations. Man, I really miss this. Or like, oh yeah, for me it's this, and chocolate. Oh my gosh. I think I ate an entire Whitman sampler box. Just murdered. But like good chocolate. I didn't want to know Hershey bar. Come for me, Hershey. Cheap chocolate. So after a night at the Golden Nugget,
I think so.
and we went to, I want to say it was called Plane Jumpers.
I think so.
That's the name of their restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I had something called a Widowmaker, which is just this massive burger. I say my memory is garbage, but I can just pull out things like that because it was such, I don't know.
I have a picture of eating that burger.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, because that reminds me of what I was wearing. Yeah, I remember. But moved back to St. Louis. somewhere over on St. Charles. Short-lived. Dad had a house fire while I lived out west. He was in the process of rebuilding. I went back to help him and people's places, things. I was back in the old stomping grounds with experience. Back and was doing really well from a drug addict standpoint, doing well enough that I was making sufficient money that when Brian had gotten out, which was about a month after I got out of jail, and he didn't want to move here. He, in fact, I think I just name dropped. Don't worry, I'll cut that out. My ex did not want to move here. In fact, he told me point blank, I'm not done doing what I'm doing. I'm going to stay here and continue to do that, which completely crushed me for the second time, because whatever. So that was our technical second split. Second out of like 6. So nobody believed us, or me. But that didn't take long, because he went back to homelessness and having nothing. And I'm going to guess that without me there to do all the little things that I could, make sure that people liked us enough to give us free drugs or to let us eat with them when they ate or whatever, because it was always my personality, not his. I was the one that was super relatable. Maybe that's even why he kept coming back to me, because I was the resource that he could use, just like he was the resource that all these other people could use. I was the small town USA kid that related with people and was disarming and could get in anywhere. Don't blame him, it was a hell of an idea. Nice people, nice, kind, understanding people are our targets. It is what it is. So when just enough time had passed that I was able to move on and not be whatever, that stage had just ended.
Okay.
I was to a point where confidence was coming back. I was starting to enjoy myself again. Just enough time for that. And I get a phone call. Baby, I think I'm ready to come home. I said, I think you have the wrong number. Who is this? The long story short, of course, I got him a plane ticket. He moved here. You know what? That ride was so much fun. Let's start that cycle all over again. Let's go round 3. It's amazing how fast that you can fall right back into the same cycle, seemingly no matter how hard you try. Because the fundamentals of who you are, your core, your character, is strong. It's hard to change even when you want to, even when you know what the problems are. It's difficult. Mm-hmm. And they're usually not the same for everybody. That's why people, in my opinion, feel like they can help or change. Like, I can fix this in this person. Because for you, it is simple. It is really easy. It doesn't bother me. I just think this and it's fine.
Yeah.
This starts to be created immediately after you're born. The people that raise us are how we learn to view the world. Our idea of what a loving relationship should be. Mm-hmm. You hear that you look for in a spouse what you had from your parents or whatever. That's because, as this new being looking up at these people that take care of you, the thoughts that inevitably go through your mind are, like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be like. This is like the ideal whatever. This is what love is. This is how we treat other people, just by viewing the world around us, observing, becoming a part of it. It's very hard to change those things. That's why therapists always talk about childhood. They want to talk about child. Well, they want you to talk about it, because that's really their only job, is to get you to talk about yourself with maybe a little bit of guidance.
To get you started
with a notepad. Yeah, and I mean, if you can get somebody started talking and then give them nothing else, it typically causes them to just keep talking and keep talking and ramble. And in those ramblings, usually is disarming enough that people will stumble across the issue. And these people get paid a lot of money to trick you into talking about yourself. But whatever. Good for them. So it is hard to change those things, especially if it's not something that the person wants, just like with addiction or anything else, is why all these probation programs and all these little things that they make you do is forced, it's court ordered. So typically unsuccessful, because you can't force somebody to want something for themselves. So how do you change those things? Back to square one. How do we change those things? How do you get somebody to want better for themselves? You've mentioned before people saying, well, you need to let him hit rock bottom. And I know that resonated with you in a sort of way that led to resentment, for lack of a better term, for these people that had said it. I, on the other hand, tend to agree with that statement. Maybe with a little less malicious intent, because to hear somebody say, well, you just need to let them fall, it sounds bad. But the other side of that coin is just people have to learn for themselves. It's the same thing, essentially the same point, lesson, whatever. But through
I agree with that. And I had to come to terms with setting boundaries and sticking to those boundaries. And it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because you, as a mother, you never want your children to hurt, suffer, struggle,
Growth and all of those things.
feel unsupported.
True growth and shadow work is all of those things.
Well, I hurt as a mother so deeply whenever any of the three of you hurt. And
This is the point of the cast, right? The pod, or what do you show them podcast? It's where the idea all began. And all of that to say that it theoretically was 100% preventable. But we as people are missing that key, that turning point of somewhere between support and understanding. Support on one end of standing for one. We are taught to hide so much of ourselves and to be a certain way. It creates so much pressure. And fear makes people act in crazy ways. The fear of being excluded or exiled or to be considered less or weak or whatever by society is almost paralyzing. We give away so much of our own power. Give it away because we don't want to not be a part of the group. But the group is going the wrong way.
Or now? When you were younger, or do you feel that way now?
I don't really feel that way now.
Because I could give a care less about being a part of anyone's particular group. But
we say that, and if that's true, that's great.
30 years ago, it was a different story.
Right.
But now, I mean, it's came with age and I guess life experiences. I don't care if a particular group cares much for me or not. I don't care if the job
and that's almost
this way of me, or
that's almost the other extreme of the same problem. Because we all need to get on the same page. We can't all be figuring it out individually by the time we're hitting a certain age.
Is definitely different now.
We as a society have had enough lived experience that we could all grow up and move on and stop with the trivial nonsense, but we stay so separated by design. The media points us against each other.
Sure.
The way society has been forever separates us.
You're too fat, you're too thin, you're a woman, you're a man, you're straight, you're gay, you're black, you're white, you're short, you're tall, you're...
And by the time society starts to accept the newest, trendiest thing that we hate, another one is created. The world was hate gay. That's gay, you're gay, everything's gay. And that's a bad thing. Well, everybody started to kind of get over that because, well, and everybody's gay. So now it's trans and we hate trans. Or whatever new letter of the alphabet is. There's always some new thing that we all hate collectively. We're all same.
How many times would you say you thought about stopping?
There's no number or something like that. It's one of those things that kind of just comes with it. I guess you think about it every time that your bag starts to run low and you're not sure where you're going to get more. So you're like, well, I mean, I guess.
It's interesting. That's not the answer that I expected.
That might be a more interesting question. What is it that you, as somebody that hasn't been in a situation like that, where is it? How often do you think it was that somebody like me would have thought quitting drugs?
Well, I don't like you saying somebody like me, but maybe I should ask the question that you seriously put thought into, like, I should probably stop. Or
That wasn't an answer.
because I don't know the answer. I mean, I don't know how to answer. I guess I thought you would say, like, I tried to stop twice, or I tried to stop 3 times or something. Like, I thought there would be a number that I remember twice, or that's what I...
No, it becomes a part of the routine. Drug addicts know they're not supposed to be doing drugs.
Did you ever actively try to stop?
Yeah.
And what prevented you from?
Well, the most notable failed attempt would be what I touched on earlier, where we were living in the car and we had our routine and we were doing well. And my ex had that job and got arrested from it. It all kind of
fell apart?
Because the system is kind of stacked against those that have done things to put themselves on the outside of. It is very, very hard to get back on the inside.
Okay.
I think that's why a lot of addicts, a lot of people in recovery, they tend to latch to the church because it is a way back in, or they think so.
Why
Because
did
church,
you feel like you couldn't come to your family or come to me and ask for help?
well, I don't remember growing up. A lot of people have a lot closer families than well, probably not ours, more like dads. But there was some sort of image of closeness when the matriarch of the family was still alive. But once she was gone, it was over. And they all still kind of play the roles.
But you didn't feel like you could come to me?
Well, I mean, the short answer is no.
Okay.
Yeah, the short answer is no. I didn't feel that I could go to anybody, especially because there's the shame or whatever that comes with drug use. Admitting that you have a problem is really kind of the hardest step,
Sure.
other than withdrawals. But those kind of stand by themselves. Societal expectation is what breeds the shame. And everybody has their own journey. I tried to actively keep my family from learning too much about what I was doing. Image is very important. You're taught that very young. You know, you go into a store, you act a certain way, or when we're not in a store, image is important. More important than showing your relatives that you care about them, that you support them. I haven't felt anything supportive come from any of them in a very long time. Even what they think is support to the littles now, it's just the indoctrination that they were trained to put on small children. It's the reason they're so interested in only children, because they're malleable. Once you show that you don't want to be a part of the cult, well, then get out. And that happened for me, as we all just talked about, at about 13. I was no longer what they viewed as in God's image. And you lived over here, we lived over there. Dad worked all of the time. Most of the times our interaction with him was because he would be gone before the school bus even came, a lot of times. And we wouldn't even really see him a lot of times. I assume he would come late at night to pick us up from grandma's and carry us to the pickup truck and carry us into the house. And when he did have time off and there was family things going on, we missed a lot of them. I don't know a lot of the extended family, just because we didn't really do the things, because dad's day off was dad's day off. Which now, being older, I get, working 12, 14 hours a day all of the time. You don't want to go do those things.
No parenting book.
No, and that's
There's no.
and of course is not the point that I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to be the therapist that says, everything is your parents' fault. It's just the way life is.
We do the best that we can with the circumstances that we're given at the time, and we make the best decisions that we think are.
And it was. I mean, Dad could have been what a lot of other people's dads are. That he could have been addicted to drugs. He could have been an alcoholic. He could have been, but he head down.
He's a great human.
He head down, move forward. He worked. He did what he had to do. But a side effect of that is I don't really know my family. Wasn't there for a lot of that. Even now, people that I've seen, however many times I've seen them, like I have to defer to Dad, like, who is this? One of your cousins? It feels very much like my dad's family, not mine. So it's no wonder I kind of went off and created my own. They all just suck too.
Well, you are an amazing human.
I'm an understanding human.
You're an amazing human. You've done amazing things. And when you decided that you were done with drugs, you were done with them. I'm so proud of you. I'm very happy that you came today to share your story.
On my only day off.
And drove to get here. Can't wait to read the book. Nudge, nudge.
Something. Whether it's going to be a book or what it's going to be.
And then we're going to open our center. We are on a trajectory to save the world.
One thing that kind of started the outreach thing in my mind, and it's going to be the second time that I've brought her up in this podcast, but Miley Cyrus had or has a foundation, the Happy Hippie Foundation. Its goal was to help the transient youth of America, which I don't know if people know how large of a problem it is. If you aren't aware of the ginormous, unignorable problem of transient youth for very similar reasons to my own, it's bad. The next time you're in Vegas and you're excited to go to Vegas, and all these people that are like, ooh, Vegas, instead of looking up and being distracted by all of the nice, pretty lights and signs, and they even put shows on ceilings outside. Oh, it's incredible. Look at all this stuff. Instead of looking at all that and being distracted, I encourage you to look down at the street and look at all the young people on the side of the road, banging on plastic tubs. Look at the homeless population that is there. What I experienced in Vegas was not good. I can't say that the lights were pretty and it was a good experience, because what you showed me there was not good. Even getting out of jail, you're handed your stuff, you're pointed down this long hallway that goes out to the left, and when you walk out that door, you are half an alley away from Fremont Street. You are out of in the jungle, the bowels of the beast, right back onto the plate. Yeah. It's an adventure. And I'm glad that you came in front of the camera today instead of staying behind the camera and shared your experience with us. I'm going right back behind the camera. So, thank you for the talk. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you. I love you. And if the world ever decides they want to work on this issue, I'm here. We are here. And I've got many more opinions, many more stories. And we will get him back in front of the camera again. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe,
Turn on your notifications so you'll know the next time Eli's coming over to join us. Leave a comment. Tell Eli what you
always
thought of
here.
this story.
I'm always here, right? I'm just, this time I have a body when usually I'm more like Charlie on the speaker.
Fingers.
I just get to be a voice on the screen that you guys don't even get to hear. I'm in their ears.
We are glad that you're here. Amy, come back next week. We missed you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.